They say dreams say a lot about you. Things you may see in dreams reflect your desires, your wishes, your past and present. But ultimately, it's all up to interpretation. Some take it upon themselves to record their dreams. That's the essence of Yume Nikki. Yume Nikki means dream diary, and that's precisely the goal of the game. To explore dreams and to record them. You take the role of Madotsuki. She lives in what seems to be an apartment. She's got a balcony, a bed, a table, a TV, and a video game console. The first thing you'll immediately learn is her refusal to go outside. Why does she not want to go outside? Is she a social recluse, or is there something going on? The main thing you should learn is that nothing in this game is fully explained, except for how to play the game and what the main goal of the game is. In the waking world, there really isn't a whole lot to do. You can sit at the table to save your game, or you can choose to play a game called Nasu. It's a very simplistic game of catching eggplants, and it's okay, but this isn't the main part of the game, so I wouldn't bother. The game really begins when you go to sleep. Upon going to sleep, you find yourself on the familiar balcony, but slightly different. You go into your room, but it's also slightly different. The real kicker lies beyond that door, the apartment door that Madotsuki initially refused to leave, and you find yourself in a strange, unfamiliar hub world. This is the Nexus. This is the main hub area, and it's from this hub area that you can explore the world. And this is the part where you realize Yume Nikki isn't like any other game. It's an unreal experience. It's minimal, and at times a very lonely experience. But there are many wonderful and very disturbing things in this world. But you may be asking yourself, what is the point? What are we supposed to do in this world? Well, thankfully, the game explains it from the get-go. You're exploring the dream world to find what are known as effects. Effects are essentially new abilities. Many of these effects are ultimately cosmetic and have no real practical use, but there are a decent amount of effects that actually have a real use, such as the bicycle or knife effects. And at this point, you've got everything you need to explore the world. But I would argue the game really begins when you've seen some stuff. Alongside the aesthetics and the disturbing imagery, what makes this game stand out is the minimalist soundtrack. Like, most of the songs in the soundtracks are just a few seconds long, but they loop endlessly, ad nauseum, and a good portion of it sounds less like actual music and more like creepy ambiance. It's the complete package. Everything, the combination of all of it. The fact that the game just kind of showed up out of nowhere from an enigmatic, mysterious creator that no one knows anything about. It's speculated that KIKIYAMA is a real person, but the fact is we don't know anything about them aside from the fact that they made Yume Nikki. Yume Nikki is a landmark title. It's one of the first RPG Maker games to completely throw out the RPG part of the game. It's no RPG, it's an exploration game. At times, Yume Nikki is wonderful, awe-inspiring, mesmerizing, and at times it's freaky, horrifying, and it gets even worse the more you think about it. And last but certainly not least, it's heartbreaking. This is the part where I talk about the ending. Spoiler alerts in effect. At the end of the game, once you deposit all of the effects into the Nexus, you wake up, and once you go outside of the balcony, you notice a flight of stairs. This is how the game ends. Madotsuki dies in the real world. This answers the question of why this game lives rent-free inside of my head. It's the implications of everything you've seen in the game. The real game is trying to figure out who the heck Madotsuki is. Why do we see all of these in her dream? And most importantly, what the heck happened? The only truly concrete fact about Madotsuki is her refusal to go outside. And even this raises a lot of questions. Why is it okay for her to traverse the dream world where there's a lot of really disturbing and scary imagery? What's going on outside? Or what does she have to fear? There are multiple theories on this. The first of which is that Madotsuki was at some point a victim. The real concrete evidence that supports this is the fact that you go through a door that looks like a zipper that you have to stab, and it bleeds. Going further down that path reveals an unusual being. It's also constantly rubbing the railing, and it's the only thing you can hear in that room. Going up the stairs beyond that into a door leads to one of the freakiest events in the game. And it's one of the few events in the game that forcefully wakes you up. What could this all mean though? It's a very uncomfortable thing to talk about, but the signs are there. But there's more to the dream world than meets the eye. Many parts of the dream world require different effects to make it through. There are also multiple different other events, many of which are RNG based, but they all tell a tale. You cannot take anything for granted in this game. And because nothing is explicitly answered by the creator KIKIYAMA, this lets the Yume Nikki fanbase go wild with multiple different types of theories. all in the service of figuring out who Madotsuki is, what happened to them, and why the ending of the game happened. And even the ending of the game raises a lot of serious questions. Like, did she actually die? Or was this yet another dream? You must play this game to understand it. Watching some random YouTuber talk about it, or even, play the entire game all the way through, it's not the same thing. That about covers it for the original Yume Nikki, but I think it's time to talk about the adaptations. The thing with these adaptations is no one can really agree if they're canon or not. Not to mention there really isn't like an official story. Like, yeah, there's a lot of interpretations and there's a lot of things you can infer from all of the dreams. But at the end of the day, the game is just simply exploring those dreams. It's kind of like trying to adapt George R.R. Martin's last Game of Thrones book. It doesn't exist, how can you adapt from it, right? Not to mention most of the NPCs in the game don't have actual names. So yes, let's talk about the manga. The story was written by Vocaloid producer Machi Gurita, and the art was done by Hitoshi Tomizawa, best known for his manga Alien 9, and the sequel. And the other sequel. The best way I can describe the manga is that they wrote a manga based on a property that has no actual story, and they made their own story. The adaptation totally goes off the rails, and honestly it's kind of funny, but I'm not entirely sure the art style fits. The next adaptation we have to talk about is the novel, written by Akira?
Leave me alone!
Who is Akira? Anyways, the various illustrations in the novel are done by Ako Arisaka, and honestly, her art is really good. The novel goes in an interesting direction, taking place in the second person as opposed to first or third. It's more of a true-to-source adaptation of the game, but it inevitably runs into the same conundrum as the manga, being that, more or less, there's nothing to go off in the source material. But whereas in the manga there are definitely villains, this is more true to source. That said, I really should read this in more detail. But don't expect a book review or anything, alright? And now we get to talk about one last official adaptation, and this time it's an actual game itself. Yume Nikki Dream Diary. Wait, isn't that a bit redundant? Anyways, the game was developed by Kadokawa Games, whose parent company owns multiple anime studios and a couple of game studios, like Spike Chunsoft and From Software? When did that happen? The game was apparently developed under the supervision of KIKIYAMA themselves. The game itself is okay. I think part of the reason why some people didn't like it was because it doesn't really capture that Yume Nikki aesthetic, like sort of detached from reality. Like, yeah, there are still areas that are meant to be surreal, but I just can't put my finger on it. So yes, all of these various adaptations are, well, they're adaptations. They're artist interpretations of what Yume Nikki is. This is definitely the coldest take of the video, but I think Yume Nikki is at its best when nothing is explicitly explained, when the onus is on the community and players to determine what happened. Some things are just better when it's left up to interpretation, you know? The original Yume Nikki is free, and you can even get it on Steam, though the Steam version has some bugs, so it's best if you download it from a different source. There's also been a literal deluge of games inspired by Yume Nikki, whether it's fan games like Yume Tuki or Dot Flow, or actual commercial games that have some elements of Yume Nikki, like most infamously Omori. I'm not gonna lie, I dove back into the game just to make this video, and it's been an exciting time, rediscovering Yume Nikki and rediscovering everything I loved about it. Here's some trivia for you. One of my first videos I've ever uploaded was a Yume Nikki related video. If you liked this video, be sure to press the thumbs up button and spread the good gospel of high-tech lowlife. And if you want to see more high-tech lowlife, be sure to subscribe and press the bell icon for notifications. And for you enlightened individuals, be sure to join my Discord server. And if you wish to support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page, links in the description down below.